All right, we are back. We are back. So, welcome back to everybody. I know it's been a couple of weeks. We're back with the Instagram Roundtable. We have been enjoying our spring breaks, or I know I have. I finally got out of here off Sitka for the first time in 2 years, so I got to see some warm weather. Now I'm back in the rain and disgusting crud. And hopefully, all you guys are excited to be back as well. Nice to see you, Miles, Vinny, Ryan, Jimmy. And we have a new guest that is Connie, aka CohoConnie. Anybody on Instagram that collects hockey probably knows who that is. Connie, how are you today?
Good, thank you.
Thanks for being willing to come here. Yeah, absolutely. It's exciting for us to be able to talk to a hockey player and for me to talk to a goalie. So that's going to be sweet. I got a question for all you guys. I mean, like for me, I noticed Connie on Instagram obviously posting a lot of goalies, but how many of you guys know her from just like random found her page, or how did that happen? Anyone want to share?
Yeah, I think for me it was when you posted the Cujo Mira Golds from 97, 98, Pinnacle certified. Might have been like, I feel like we probably know each other for what, 2 years now, Connie? It's probably about 2 years, yeah. So that was, I saw that, and then I checked out your page. I'm like, oh, this girl's got a cool Cujo collection. And I was always interested because you always had your cards sometimes placed in front of, I could see a stick rack, but you never showed off any of the sticks.
That's right.
So I was always like, I always wanted more. So yeah. I think that's how I came across you.
I was just gonna say, like, Connie, anytime you post any of your photos, I'm like, not only is it a great card, it's well photographed. You started doing those every single day, like a day in NHL history, and you had the cards to go with it. And I kind of count like I really enjoy following your page, and it's really cool to see. You've played goal, like you obviously still play goal, and it's obvious that you're passionate about it, and that's really awesome.
Sweet. How about I know Vinny and Nick, you guys have kind of recently discovered her page, right? As you've gotten into Instagram recently. I mean, I think I don't know if you would agree, but stands out for me. I really like the photography. That's something the hockey collectors I feel like have so much memorabilia that we can all use and stick behind the cards rather than some of the other sports. So that's what stood out for me.
Like you said, man, we all surf on eBay and you see some of these photos. People don't know what they're doing, but it takes a real art to it. I know Miles always notices it and he always points it out to me. So I always appreciate that. Because like he says, we've all sat there with our phones, it's not as easy as it looks. So, but like you mentioned, I'm a noob, so I'm still getting used to everything and feeling it all out, but I'm enjoying her page so far. And like you said, anything Cujo. I've always was a Cujo fan. I felt like he got a very raw deal here in Detroit. So always was Team Cujo.
Nice.
I liked her recent one where the cards I kind of love to hate, where there was. I don't have that problem with Lemieux since he was always a Penguin, but there's like Yager. He went to so many teams after Pittsburgh, and I was praying he ended up there to retire, but I was not so lucky.
Yeah, it's funny that people were posting a lot of those things with the wrong jerseys on the wrong team, and then the picture is on a third team. Yeah, I didn't even know those kinds of cards existed. For me, Connie, too, I think like, okay, she can't have this card, right? And then you post a card. I'm like, dang. Like the amount of time that you've spent to amass that collection is something I'm excited to hear about. But I think most of us that follow you and people that have found your page know that you did play goalie. I mean, is that where it started before collecting? Were you a goalie first and foremost when you were really young?
So I started playing, well, the first time I was probably on skates, I was probably two years old. And it's actually funny. My parents tell me the story. I was too young to remember it, obviously, but they put me in like a figure skate to begin with, and I guess I just screamed at them, "I want hockey," and I was like 2 years old. So, I mean, I come from a hockey family. My parents are Oilers fans. We're Oilers fans to start with, and so anyway, I didn't actually start playing organized hockey till I was about 6 years old. So all up until that point, it was just outdoor rinks. I would go to the outdoor rink. And actually what happened is I ended up slicing my chin open playing on the outdoor rink. And another adult was there and he waited for my parents to come and said, at the same time, I'm bleeding all over the place. He's like, you should probably try to maybe put her in organized hockey. She seems to really like it. So my parents ended up giving in, and I actually didn't become a goalie though until my second year of Pee Wee full time. So I always wanted to be a goalie, but my dad was kind of against it. Not just the cost of the equipment, but also the fact that goalies are typically the first ones blamed and the last ones thanked. It's not an easy position. And, also too, when you think about it, trying to make a team as a goalie, there's 2 spots for a goalie. There's many spots for a forward. So your chances of making teams, it becomes more difficult. So I guess my parents were just kind of against it to begin with. My grandpa was a goalie, so I don't know if that played into my dad not wanting me to be a goalie, but he eventually gave in, and I started playing full-time goal in Pee Wee. So I'd say one good thing about playing forward for so long was my skating ability, and I think that helps a goalie. And I always try to tell young goalies, like, make sure that you can skate, because goalie is not a good place to put someone that can't skate, because it won't your development. You need to know how to skate. And that's actually something interesting about Cujo. When I don't know if you guys have heard that story about him, but when he started, basically he got into hockey because a relative had a spot available, like a league they'd already paid, but they moved away. So he got to play, but he couldn't skate, so they stuck him in net. But he always wanted to be a forward. So even if you talk to Cujo today, he'll tell you, like, he wished he could have been a forward, but he ended up in net. But he can skate. But yeah, goalies, you need to have the footwork, and you need to have that to be a capable goalie. You can't not skate. So that's kind of how it ended up, me playing hockey. And then collecting, always was kind of into cards. I remember a lot with my dad. We would open like a box of Pro Set. This is going back to the 90s. And, we'd had another family friend who would give me a pack of cards for my birthday every year. So I'd look forward to that. And then my mom was like, you need to have a focus. You can't just collect randomly. So when I was about 10, I decided, well, Cujo, because the Oilers, and he was the guy that I looked up to as a goalie. And now we're here. So, yeah.
Awesome. And you are still playing hockey today, correct? You're still playing in adult leagues and whatnot?
Yeah, so, with COVID, no, but where we haven't played since all that happened. But yeah, I play ball hockey, and I do play ice hockey as well. I also did a fair bit of reffing in the last 5-6 years, I'd say. Just thought I'd try something different and see a different side of the game, which very... I actually enjoy it most nights. You take a lot of garbage as a ref, but it is what it is. So I probably played more ball hockey in the last year or two, just because I was pretty busy. I was working full time and doing my master's at the same time. So kind of trying to fit everything in was tough. But now that I'm done that, I can't wait for the restrictions to lift and get back to playing all the time. Right. So, yeah.
Awesome. I do appreciate those videos that you post of you playing ball hockey. That is like, hey, I could at least go start doing something like that. I don't know about all you guys, but it does make me want to go play some type of hockey. I certainly miss it a lot. But that's cool. I mean, and talking about Curtis Joseph, he's your favorite player. One of the coolest things that I've noticed is some of your pictures, and you talk about this. You've had the chance to meet him and some pretty well-known hockey players throughout your career, right? That must have been a dream for you to meet your idol as a goalie.
Yeah. So when I guess the first time I actually met Cujo, this is funny. Like, I was at a Dave & Buster's in Toronto. I was out there. It would have been 2003-ish. So Cujo was a Red Wing, but it was during the summer, and I was out there for a golf tournament. And he happened to be in that Dave & Buster's with his kids, but he was in a foot cast. So I don't know if you remember, when he was playing for the Red Wings, he injured his foot, and he had some ankle issues. Anyway, I was like starstruck. I'm 16 or whatever it was, and there's Cujo in the Dave & Buster's, totally unexpected. And I couldn't find it. I know it's somewhere in my stuff, but he signed a napkin for me. So I was, it was like, okay, that's cool. But the next, the next time I guess I got to meet him was David Marcoux. He used to be a goalie coach for the Flames here, and our community association. I helped out with some of the goalie evaluations the one year out in Springbank, and David knew how much of a Cujo fanatic I was. And it was Cujo's last season with the Leafs, and they were in town for a practice, and David got me down to the practice because I wanted my Cujo Flames gloves signed. And so David did that, and I got to hang out with Cujo a bit there at the practice, and he gave me a stick as well. He's a super nice guy. And yes, signed my glove, took a few pictures. And then not too long after that, so about a year or two after he retired, there used to be these fantasy camps that you could go to. I know Gretzky did one. I think he was doing it up until maybe a year ago. And then the one I did was out of Niagara Falls. And that's when I found that on the internet. I'm like, I have to save up every dollar I have, and I need to go to that so that I can play hockey with Cujo. And then that was like the first time I really got to sit down and actually talk with him as a person rather than, as a hockey player. And, that it's always scary when you meet your idol like that, because you're like, oh, what if he's not nice? What if he's mean to me or something? And it's like, it's not, then your whole years of collecting and loving this guy goes out the door. But obviously Cujo didn't fail me there. And he is a wonderful guy. If you've not read his book yet, I highly recommend it. It's a great book. His story it just makes you more of a fan, even to go, wow, good guy, honest guy. Can't say anything bad about him at all. So,
Nice.
Yeah.
Undrafted too, right?
Undrafted. If you look at his history, like his whole story, he was adopted as a baby. He grew up, he grew up School of Hard Knocks for sure.
Wow, I know that. Yeah.
Yeah, and he made it. Going through, getting to play for Notre Dame, making himself playing junior there and showing himself there, and getting to go to Wisconsin. And then he was 1 year with Wisconsin, and then the Blues signed him. So if you think about his route to the NHL, it was nothing, I guess, easy at all. So you respect a guy like that. And I've always said, he's definitely bar none the best goalie that's never won a cup, in my opinion. It's a shame that he never won a cup, but I don't think that should, kind of diminish what he did as a goalie, as a player, and a person. Because I think, just to be a hockey player is one thing, but if you're not a good person, I don't, you're just a player, right? So I think his full package is just, something to look up to. So.
Yeah. My grade 8 math teacher actually he said he went to public school with Curtis Joseph at one point when they were kids. And this was 1998 that he told me this story, but he just said like how shocked they were when Cujo made it into the NHL, because they said they remembered him in grade school being this small kid. And he said, I just remember how skinny his wrists were. Like we were playing volleyball and he wasn't an athlete. Like this was like in grade school. So like, he used to tell us all these Cujo stories. It was so cool about Cujo as a kid. So yeah, no, it's pretty neat to hear about his story. And actually, I live in the town that Cujo was born in, Keswick, which is pretty cool. And now I believe he lives in Richmond Hill, which is about 35 minutes from Keswick. So I know people have met him, and exactly like you say, they always say he's like such a nice guy, because I think his kids were playing hockey for a while. And he was usually at the rink, and people always, said hi to him, and he was, incredibly friendly and accommodating for signatures and things like that.
Yeah, makes a guy like that easy to collect. Oh,
absolutely. I collected him for a while too. Yeah.
I have a vivid memory of the St. Louis Blues setup that he had when he had the wolf face, the teeth on the mask, and like the dark blue pads with the yellow and red. Like I felt like that was the sickest looking setup of the 90s. I don't care what anybody says. There's only a few cards of him in that setup, but it's the best. I don't know what you think about that, Connie, but for me, that's like I remember my dad saying how awesome Curtis Joseph looked. And I remember we looked for every card we could with that setup when I was a kid. So that's my Curtis Joseph memory.
That was the set that he would have used during that shortened season, right? The '95 shortened season. Yeah. So he only wore it for half a season. But yeah, I agree with you that just that combo with the jersey. They had that. I call it the clown jersey, the St. Louis Blues clown jersey. But that combo that he had and that mask, which I don't know if you guys have heard this before. You probably have, but that mask that you're talking about, he actually used with the Oilers when he first started there with the Oilers, except he just put tape on the yellow part of the mask. So it just made it look blue, but that was the exact same mask that he took over from the end of his stint with the Blues and then following into the Oilers. But I agree with you. That's a sick setup. So,
Right. I know there's people like Jimmy and I have talked about this that buy like former goalies equipment and they wear them in games and stuff and like beer league. If I was playing goalie and I'd somehow you could like find that setup besides a Tebow setup from the Northeast, that'd be so sick to wear in a game. Miles or Vinny, do you have any follow up on that?
I was just gonna say, like, I grew up an Oilers fan, and like that '97 playoffs, like, his Blues setup was awesome, but like he got to the Oilers and like that was a defining moment for me, was beating the Stars in '97, and like they couldn't have done it without him. They're outshot in all but one stupid game, like the team played hard, but they just weren't a super high end team, and he just drug them through. Like, unbelievable effort that year.
Yeah, that was, I still remember that save, save of the century by Cujo in that against the Nieuwendyk when he dove across there. And I believe it was his birthday too that he made that save. It was April, but yeah. So I do remember that. And I remember sitting watching those games and, everyone chanting Cujo and doing the bow to him. It's like, that was, I love those days. The 90s hockey, nothing can beat it. Man, that's the card.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's the save. That was, I could still see that. It was unreal.
And then for Marchand to go down the other way and score on the next play.
Yeah.
That's unforgettable. That
unreal, play. Yeah. How many times do you see that a goalie makes an unreal save one way and then goes back the other way and the team scores? It's just awesome.
Vinny, did you have something for her?
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I was like Nick, I was stoked when he was going to be with the Red Wings because I was not a big Hasek guy.
Well, Hasek wasn't even supposed to be in the deal. He retired. He was supposed to be done, and Cujo was coming in to replace him. And then, I know he had some injury issues. And then Hasek just decided he wasn't happy with retirement and kind of came back and screwed it up. Because I heard they didn't speak to each other at all that year. I don't know if that's true, but it makes sense. I mean, you got two alphas, two great goaltenders. Because, we were talking about that in the chat, Matt. I mean, a lot of people thought that they just brought them in together, but that wasn't the case.
I did too.
Cujo was there to replace Hasek because he just retired after the 0-2 run.
Okay.
Yep.
And if you look at Cujo's numbers with the Wings in the playoffs, they're pretty damn good. I know stuff happens, but if you look at him, I mean, that's what Detroit does. They just kind of run goalies out. That's just kind of how they roll. It didn't matter. I mean, they had a different goaltender for almost every cup win. So even in 08, they flip-flop back and forth. But like I said, I always thought he got a raw deal, but I was really excited when they brought him in. I remember that. Because I always liked Cujo, like you said. I was just, I don't know, and he always had something about just getting in great jerseys too, with the Red Wings jersey. I'm not a Maple Leafs fan, but I love their jersey. I've always liked the Oilers jersey. So it makes it a lot easier too. Like you said, first of all, to hear that the guy's a good guy. And then when he's got decent jerseys here that you're collecting and stuff. So especially if he's playing for your home team, that makes it even better.
Connie, did you ever have the chance to talk to Curtis about, any time in his playing career? I mean, I know you got to be on the ice with him and whatnot, but did you ever have a chance to sit down and just kind of reminisce over some of his career throughout the highs and lows or anything?
A little bit. I mean, some of it I would say is on a kind of a personal, and I don't know if what I would want to say. I mean, what's written in his book is kind of, what he's decided to tell the world, and I wouldn't want to kind of step there and, but I'd say that, I mean, he talked about, his time like I don't think he didn't have anything negative to say. Obviously, I mean, he's not going to do that. He's not that kind of guy. I believe that, when he got his second chance, I guess, in the NHL after winning the Spengler Cup. If you think about it, after Phoenix, there he hadn't got re-signed. He was kind of down and almost done, and he went and won the Spengler Cup with Team Canada, and the Flames signed him. So when he ends up in Calgary and he gets another chance at playing, and he got another season and a half out of it and got to retire in Toronto, which I think was kind of a nice thing, given that he's from there. Like he's an Ontario boy. I think his departure from the Leafs, there's a bit more to that than I think people realize. There was a bit of stuff that had to do with what happened in the Olympics. I'll say just that. But I think he liked being a Leaf. I don't think he ever wanted to leave the Leafs, and to see him go back there and finish, I think was nice.
Gotcha. Well, that's neat. That's neat. Yeah, definitely interested in reading the book. I think there's a lot of questions that I have about playing the position, especially the mental side of things. That I assume he talks about that in the book as well, right? Just like mental preparation of the game and whatnot.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, good.
It's an awesome book. I highly recommend it. So, yeah.
Sweet. Good deal. Well, we have a question from Al, and I know that you got some equipment out, and he asks, do you have any favorite Cujo equipment in your collection? Do you have anything there that you'd like to show off?
I didn't actually bring any of the gear because I'm using I'm not going to lie, I'm using my mom's computer because I only have my work computer and I can't use it for this. But so I'm actually at my mom's using her computer, but I can tell you what kind of equipment I have. I haven't had a chance to show it all off on Instagram, but I will as time goes on. So I started doing the game used equipment, game used jersey stuff probably, I want to say 12, 13 years ago, when I kind of got heavily into it. But the first piece of game used gear I ever got was a Detroit stick. And it's pretty personal to me, or means a lot, because it was actually given to me by Dave Hunter. So Dave Hunter is an ex-Oiler. He's actually, friends with my dad and been kind of a family friend for a long, long time. And he knew how big of a Cujo fan I was, so he got me this stick from Detroit of Cujos. And I mean, I've never let that go. It's a stick, but and I think I've got about 30 sticks now. I've had more, and I've sold some, and tried to not be too much of a hoarder. But I try to get at least one of every model of stick that he ever used. And then I do have a couple sets of pads. I've got a pair of his Flames pads. I've got a pair of Phoenix Coyotes pads. And then I got the glove and blocker that he wore with the Leafs, the Heaton glove and blocker that was used actually in the last game of Maple Leaf Gardens. So that was kind of a cool piece. I've got his 438th win glove. So when he would have passed Plant there with Phoenix. I've got a glove and blocker from the Red Wings, and I've got one of the last gloves he would have used with the Leafs. So it's actually a Vaughn glove. And I think I got that photo match to his 450th win. So that's kind of a neat thing to have. And then I guess as far as jerseys go, I've got too many. Trying to do a count, but I've got the only one that I'm missing is a white St. Louis Blues game used jersey. I've got at least one other home and away from every other team that he played for. And the most I have, I think I've got about 6 Leafs jerseys, and then kind of scattered about. But I do have 2 of his Flames jerseys as well, and those ones are really rare since he only played there for half a season. Mm-hmm. So I guess as far as favorite, I guess that I've said all of this stuff, but probably one of my favorites is still that stick that I got from Dave, just because of how I acquired it. Like sometimes it's not about what it is or how valuable it might be. It's just like, what's the story behind it? And to me, that's far more important. And I value things in my collection that have a story like that far more than I do something I might have just found on an auction or, that kind of a thing. So, yeah.
Right. She sounds like a collector to me. She has a lot, but it's not enough or not too much, right? It's just the right amount. That's crazy. I think it's so neat when I see things like that, because after collecting in another sport for a few years, I haven't seen collectors as dedicated as hockey collectors. And to me, the memorabilia, especially goalie memorabilia, like there's nothing better than that, you know. So that's really cool. They've been able to acquire all that over these many years. And I mean, cards are what we're all, you know, here for mainly. I think, you know, which we started this, but you know, we talked a little bit about your photography and some of the cards. You're showing the cards off correctly. You know, it shows all the foil and everything in there. I mean, I'm curious about, like, when did that become a big priority? Like, have you always been into photography, or is that something that you kind of found your way into, collecting cards?
Yeah, so I do dabble in like wildlife photography. I don't usually share it with too many people. It's kind of just a side hobby, but I do enjoy that. What kind of where this all started was, you know, to be honest, last with the COVID, and I'm thinking, oh, it'd be fun to maybe show off some of my cards and maybe start to enjoy some of them a bit more again. And I started messing around and, you know, trying different, you know, as you know, Jimmy mentioned there, with the stick rack as a background, and then trying just a black background and just playing around and seeing what looked good. And people started to like what I was doing, and I thought, you know, it's fun for me, fun for other people, and yeah, just kind of went with that. It's honestly just a trial and error kind of thing. You know, it's like, it's tough. It isn't that easy to do, as you guys were mentioning earlier. It takes a lot of different angles. You get, you know, lights in the way, trying to get the glare to go away on some of the foily cards, and it's not easy. And scanning a card would be much easier, except I think, you know, scanning a card is good if you're trying to sell it, but if you're trying to show it, it's nicer to have a picture. So yeah.
You got something, Jimmy? I saw that you unmuted. Got a question?
No, I was going to comment on something, but now I don't even remember what it was.
Jimmy's got his 20 things going through. He says, like, okay, photography, Curtis Joseph, go down the rabbit hole. You're looking at a Cujo card, right? I have your Instagram pulled up here, and I was just going to share it with people that maybe haven't seen it as much, but I'm guessing that you try using a light box, right, to get some of your pictures, or do you use like a table, or let me see if I can get it up here.
No, actually, if you can believe it, I basically set something up on the basement floor and just kind of put a piece of paper behind it. It's really simple. So yeah, like I actually thought of looking into one of those light box, but I'm cheap and I didn't want to buy one. So
no, this definitely looks better.
It's funny you say you're cheap, but you have like pretty much Cujo's entire like game used from his career, like every item.
Cheap with something.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
What's that?
Go back to that mirror platinum. Guys, show that. There it is.
Yeah.
Yep. Your beauty.
And you can take it from different angles too. That's one thing I've noticed that some hockey collectors do, is they do it from all these different angles. I mean, just the attention to detail in the hockey collecting community is just really impressive. That's something that's always stood out to me.
It's 31. It's number 31.
Is it? Nice.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that.
Even better.
Wow.
There you go.
That's super cool.
Yeah, it's a beauty.
And you always got to show the back of the card, because sometimes the photo on the back and what's written on the back, that's half the battle. That's why I always say those Z folios are cool. Mm-hmm. But when you don't get to see the back of the card, I'm old school with my Ultra Pro 9-pocket acid-free pages. I just like to flip that card and look at it. That's great. Because look at that picture right there. I mean, that mask is killer.
And there's that tape you talked about right there along the edge, Connie, right?
Yep.
That's awesome. Yeah, some really neat things. I'm trying to get down. We gotta talk about the Lanny McDonald picture too. But I'm trying to find the one that the stick pictures down here. Are they a little bit further down?
Sticks, Cujo sticks, or
with your card? I think you took some pictures with cards, like cards in front of the stick rack, right?
Oh yeah, that would be earlier on. Yeah, so you gotta have to.
Yeah, I'll go down here a little bit further and see if I can find it for you guys. But there was a picture there with Lanny McDonald too. Go ahead, Nick. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say I agree with Mike here. What's your favorite card in your collection? That's what I want to know.
Oh, nice.
I actually brought that one. So it's not the most expensive card. It's not, it's a nice card. But again, like I mentioned, it's what it means to me and where it came from that I think is more important. So back in the day, if you'll remember before, this is an early 2000s card, and that was when autographs and game use cards were brand spanking new. Very, it was really rare to pull one. They were super sought after. And my dad actually gave this to me for Christmas in like 2001, and I was just over the moon to get it because it was the first game used autograph card of Cujo I ever had. So it's actually this one here. I'm just going to try to do this if that's the best way. So that's actually my favorite card in my collection from Upper Deck, 2001 Upper Deck. And it's actually got a piece of the armpit mesh, and at the time that was, that's pretty darn cool. So I just, I thought this, show you the back there, but these were a tough card to find in the day, and just the fact that it was a Christmas present from my dad, that's my favorite card. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Love the sentimental connection there for sure. Now, one of my favorite cards is worth like 10 cents, but it was one of the first ones my dad bought me, so I'm with you on that.
Yeah, I think generally, to be honest, like that 2001 product, a lot of the rare stuff is like impossible to find because like we were just past the boom years, so less people were collecting. So I'm curious if print runs were smaller generally, like what was going out the doors. I seem to think that perhaps things were getting printed in lesser quantities because the demand was not as strong. But a lot of that stuff, it just doesn't surface. Like, Connie, the Magic Moment set that you've been like trying to hunt down, and it's not even the refractors.
No.
And then like Nikki, you were talking to me about those refractors. Like just generally, I find that early 2000 stuff, like the rare stuff, doesn't surface very often. And when it does, sometimes the price surprises you. Like, well, it should have gone for a lot more. So again, I think that's something to an opportunity, I think, for a lot of people to jump on, especially with people getting frustrated these days with eBay prices. You can find some great deals for some rare items from the early 2000s for great prices, and that won't stay the same. That will change, I guarantee you.
Right. No, you nailed it on that one, man. That's for sure. I think there's still deals to be had on eBay. You really have to spend the time looking.
And you have to be quick. Like you got to set up your searches. When you see your item come up, you don't hesitate. You buy, because I guarantee you, if you sleep on it, it's gone the next day.
How many of you guys have done that? You see an item, you're like, I want to try to get a few dollars off, and you send an offer, and 5 minutes goes by. You're like, okay, I'll just buy it because somebody else is going to think the same thing and just buy it as soon as it comes up. I mean, Connie, do you have to really? I mean, with Cujo, I'm assuming you have to. With what you have left to get, and that's what I'll ask Dave's question. I mean, are you feeling like his prices are still decent for how it's been, or do you feel like people are starting to recognize just how good he was?
Yeah, it's some of the cards I've seen. Like I don't typically buy a lot on eBay anymore. I used to, but just with my collection focus, and we can talk about that later. But I've noticed a few sales of some of these 90s cards, and it's just like, wow, I'm really like blown away by the price of them. Like I saw an Epics card from Pinnacle 97, 98, and it went for like $200, and I was like, just blown away. I'm like, when
that was
I bought
the purple
card,
one too, right?
Yeah, it was a purple moment, I think.
Yeah. I'm like, what the heck? I saw that too. I was like,
just like, and I thinking, well, yeah, when I bought that card back, so long ago, nowhere near that kind of price. So there's some of his cards that surprise me, and then of course there's that where some of them will sell, and you're like, that shouldn't have sold for that low. So it's kind of all over the place. And if I'm down to probably, because I really focus on kind of all the cards from his active playing years. So I'm only missing about 50 of those, and they don't pop up very often. So if I never find them, I never find them. But I guess that, keep looking, and if they pop up one day, they do. So I'm at peace with that now. I'm a big completionist. So
right. Miles, you wouldn't know anything about that, would you?
I was actually just literally typing into the YouTube because, Yeah, it's crazy hard.
I'm curious about this as well. So yeah, so what's left? I mean, maybe we can get the word out, and the good mojo will happen, and it'll appear for you somewhere on the market.
I do have a website that I haven't spent as much time on it as I should have lately, but I do have a list of all the ones I'm missing. There are a couple. Anything in the 90s is what I'd like to knock off the list, but those ones are tough, and I don't have my list here at the moment. I can't think of any like right off the top of my head, but any of those 90s cards, they mean probably the most to me. So those are the ones I'd like to find.
Gotcha. That's impressive. Down to 50. You'll have to, if you get a chance, you have to send that website to me so I can put it in the description for people to check out. That's something that I've been wanting to use the scanner for, is to build a website. So cool. Awesome.
Connie, is it the Cujo Fan 2000 one? Is that you? Yeah. On the Weebly, yeah. Because you shared that with me before. I'll just put it in the chat.
Oh, awesome. Thanks, Jim. Yeah, no worries. That's perfect. So, I mean, let's focusing on the cards and whatnot too. I mean, how are you feeling, and just in general? I mean, you've been collecting for how long now? How many years?
So I'm 33 now, so 23 years on Cujo.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that really explains how you've been able to get all but 50 of his cards. You said you're collecting for, 20 plus years, the same player. Are you happy with where the 90s are at right now with all the recognition that it's getting? I mean, because we've all seen them be worth like nothing. You know what I mean? When Pro Set PSA 10s are selling for a lot of money from 90 or 91, you know that the game's changed. So you feel, I mean, it's kind of nice to see the recognition, right?
Yeah, and I think just for someone that grew up in the 90s, the nostalgia behind it, it's like, these were the cards that a lot of collectors were bred on. A lot of us came out of that era going, oh, wow, like, these are the cards. And I actually kind of missed them. So to see them coming back up online and watching them on Instagram, it's like, oh man, the memories. And it's nice. And it's just nice to see these cards, even if it's a base card, it's like, man, I remember opening those and I have good memories. So it's that I love.
Right. Well, it's been fun to talk to like, for instance, Nick. He's rediscovering his dad's collection, and he's having those same experiences, right, Nick? Just like seeing those pictures and bringing back all those memories, and then you go off and start buying more.
Yeah, it's been actually, I got myself into way too big of a project this weekend of completely reorganizing everything I had in top loaders. I originally did them by player. I'm doing it by set, so I've spent way too much time myself. But yeah, once again, like you said, the memories start to flush through once again, just going through it all. One thing it's telling me I really need to downsize, but nonetheless, like you said, those memories, there's certain cards that I've had for, 25 years that really aren't worth much, but just it's the sentimental stuff to it. I remember my dad giving me, like you said, that's where it really comes down to. It's not just the value of a card, it's just where you got it, what the story is, and sometimes it just means that much more, and that's usually the case.
Right. Dave asked another good question too, though, because you being a completionist, I think we can all agree. I mean, I don't know how well everybody's self-control is in this group of people here, but I can tell you this, that when there's a couple of Tebow cards that popped up not too long ago, and I was like, I don't care what it costs, I have to get these cards. Hopefully nobody bids $1,000, but I mean, I had to do, spend a good deal of money to get them. Have you ever purchased anything, that you regret, or something that you're like, I look back and I probably shouldn't have spent that much, or are you just like, I'll do whatever it takes to get a card when it pops up?
Yeah, I think some of that started to happen kind of 2012, 2013, kind of when things were going absolutely bonkers with new releases. And for me, collecting a player that at the time was retired, I just was kind of overwhelmed. And I kept thinking, I got to get all of these cards. And I was spending too much money. I honestly had to dial it back. And I'm like, I don't need all of these cards. I especially with him being post-retirement. I mean, if it's a card that it's from his earlier days, and that's something I would maybe feel better about spending that kind of money on. But almost overpaying and getting into bidding wars with some other collectors. It just kind of took the fun out of it a bit, if I'm being completely honest. And that's when I started shifting a bit more to the game use stuff, picking up more game use jerseys and equipment. I thought I felt better about spending that kind of money on that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just the cards, if you don't set some boundaries, it's an endless pit. I didn't want to go down that. So I had to have some restraint, and I've really enjoyed kind of the Instagram community and getting back and enjoying the cards that I have. You don't have to keep buying and buying and buying. I mean, it's nice to pick up the odd new card that piques your fancy, but just enjoying what you have. And I guess learned that by maybe overpaying for stuff and then feeling, my money could have been spent elsewhere. Did I really need yet another card? Because do you need them all? I don't know. Yes. I am a completionist, but within reason. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think the time you were mentioning was when between the pipe stuff, like for in the game, was like that stuff was expensive. Like people forget that because once Vault dropped, then the prices just and the company closed out, everything just dropped in price so much, and everything's fairly cheap now. But then it was not. Like everyone collected it. The between the pipes was very popular, and if you had something like numbered to 10, people were fighting over it. Like I couldn't buy pot van stuff back then because everything pot van was like so like prices were insanely through the roof. I couldn't do it. But yeah, no, it's nice to go back now and grab that stuff. But at the time, it was just you had to have some restraint, or you're gonna run out of money pretty fast.
Mm-hmm. Vinny, what about you, man? I saw that you unmuted. I wasn't sure if you had a question. Can you hear me, Vinny?
Nah, I can.
Oh, okay.
Here for a second.
Yeah, go ahead. What's up?
Oh, nothing. I'm good.
Oh, okay.
I went unmuted.
Well, since it's a round table, I feel like we should throw a couple questions that we can all discuss. I mean, Connie talked about having the ability to say, like, to draw the line, and like, where is everybody's line with collecting? Like, where do you draw the line and say, even though I want this card, I'm done? Like, is it about setting boundaries? Is it about saying just this player? Like for me right now, I'd love to collect like 5 different goalies, but like, okay, I got to collect one guy. So Vinny, what about you? I mean, how do you set those boundaries for yourself?
Perfect example. So I'm in wedding mode right now at my household because my middle daughter is getting hitched in 2 weeks. Okay. So I've been on hiatus, and Thursday night we had food tasting at some place. At 10 o'clock, there was literally 50 auctions going off for Lemieux stuff. And I mean, this wasn't your average Lemieux stuff. This was some serious 25, number to 25 patch cards, jersey game use stuff. There was a lot. And I had to say, okay, I didn't get to go to the show 2 weeks ago, so I have that budget from there. I'm going to try to bid on everything and see what I can win. So out of those 50 auctions, I won 10. And I still spent, I think it was like 140 something Canadian. And
come on, Vinny, your wife's not listening. Tell us the real number.
That was the real number.
Yeah,
she's always lurking, dude.
I know. You got to blow your cover detail. Yeah, I have a detail on me all the time.
Always lurking.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So they're always lurking.
That was my budget for the month, and it's gone, and I haven't gotten anything since. But that was the big purchase. There's some killer stuff in there that I needed, and it's all in my book. So I'm trying to stick to lists. I'm trying to do things, not buying quadruples and quintuples of everything like I like to do. So you have to draw that line in the sand. And lately I've been sticking to the budget, and that's it. So.
Gotcha. Miles, what about you, dude? I haven't heard from you in a little bit here. I mean, where do you draw the line? Does the wife draw the line, or do you draw the
line? She's listening, guys.
Yeah. In the next room.
No, I was just gonna say, like, for me, like, when I collected as a kid, like, I collected anything I could get my hands on. Like, you've seen, like, I've got mostly base cards. They're all over the place. They're mostly worthless, but now that I'm starting to put a bit of money into it, it's what do I focus on? And I've kind of just been trying to focus on my PCs. And yeah, there's been some big money cards come up for my PCs that I've looked at and seriously thought about. But I think for now, when I'm this early and collecting or like building that PC set, I'm like, I could buy 100 cards with what this card is worth. So, do I get more out of the one single card that, is maybe a little dinged up that is super rare, or do I go for the 100 base or whatever it is? And I'm lucky enough that my guys aren't, they're not highly collected. We always joke in the chat, like I'm the only Friesen collector on the planet. So it's like, I'm not fighting too many people for those cards. They'll probably come up again, but
we got to start a Hall of Fame campaign for Jeff Friesen so more people will start collecting. Yeah, so maybe don't get the word out. We'll come to you last, Jimmy, since you have everything that anybody could ever want. You hooked us all up. But, Nick, you're falling right into that set collecting, which we joke all the time about, just like your dad did. Now you're collecting the sets. But, are you able to just, like you said, you kind of leave the modern stuff away, right? That's how you're able to keep that focus down a bit?
Yeah, at this point, I'm kind of just slowing down. I'm kind of doing what Connie said. You just kind of, take gratitude in what you got. I got so much crap here. I got enough, to go through. And especially with these prices, like you said, it can be extremely discouraging. Most people know I'm mainly an Yzerman guy, and then, the Fedorov and Lidstrom's. And those markets usually get pretty hot when an Yzerman comes on. So I try not to get too attached. But at this rate, like I said, you just kind of, I'm appreciating what I got. I got pretty much the majority of the stuff I would really want within reason. A few dream cards if they pop up here or there, but I'm just trying to be content in what I have. But I do want to ask Connie too. So obviously I'm guessing the Oilers is your favorite with his type of stuff. But outside of that, what do you like collecting? Did you like him in Detroit stuff? Toronto, Phoenix, Calgary? What look did you like?
To be honest, it didn't matter the team. I just collected anything and everything of his. I think looking back, they all have a bit of, his Oilers cards obviously are kind of near and dear to my heart. But I have nothing against the Red Wings cards. I brought this one card, which is another one of my favorite cards, and I'll just show it now. And it happens to be a Red Wing card, but this is his first patch auto. Or shield patch. So that's the first one, and it's actually a Red Wings card. And I really like this card because it was the first ever in products to feature the shield in the auto.
Wow.
That kind of stuff is, what I like too. It's like, is it the first of something, the first concept of a card in the hobby? It's like, I got to have that. So that's kind of what I look for. It's like, is that the first time that they came up with that concept? That's a card you got to have. So I also do like vintage goalies as well. So, my hobby, I'm like every other collector, we say we have a limit, but then we kind of
branch out everywhere.
I gotta go get that. So
my PC, like I said, just with reorganizing stuff, I realized my PC is way too large. That is one thing I've noticed. Like I said, I joke that Yzerman, Fedorov, and Lidstrom are my guys, but according to these boxes, I got about 85 guys.
Yeah.
So like you said, it's very easy to branch out.
Yeah.
I'd like to follow up and say, out of all the setups that he wore, looking at his cards, do you have a personal favorite? Like, if you could own a full set that he wore, which one would you pick? If you can only pick one.
The 96-97 Oilers.
Okay. All right.
Complete with
Miles. He's all proud of that.
Yeah. His everything, the mask, the TPS, the blue and white TPS, just deadly. So nice. I think it's some of my good memories from watching him play at that era, but also that setup was clean. And I will say that his setup in Detroit was pretty crisp too. That Detroit mask was pretty deadly too. So
nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. And you mentioned that you collected some vintage goalies too, right? Is there anybody that you started with, or did you just kind of like me, just kind of randomly picking different goalies that were popular?
Yeah, I got, just kind of like Tony Esposito, Bernie Perrant, Johnny Bauer, Sawchuk, these sorts of goalies. Obviously, I mean, those are the guys from that era. But I also have, everything from base cards of, Darren Pang. Like, I don't, as long as it's an old goalie, I don't care. So I brought a couple of just a couple examples of some of the vintage goalies, but like, they don't have to be vintage cards. Like, I know some people are really, I want only the old cards, but I kind of like this kind of stuff too. Just anything that's showing that old mask, I just really like.
Nice.
And I've got this, just another cup card, Perrant there.
Ernie,
That one's kind of cool, but yeah, anything that kind of shows those old masks, I just have mad respect for those goalies because they were bonkers to get in there with that kind of protection. So,
no joke.
So yeah,
that's awesome. That's really, really neat. Jimmy, are you? Was that the significant other summoning you, or are you good?
No, I'm okay. My daughter was like, "Are you still talking?" She just checked it in. That's about it.
Needed to have her come in with some hockey gear on.
What a good daughter. Checking in on you.
Yeah. No, we were playing. She wanted to play Halloween today, so she said I could be a ninja or hockey player. So I just threw on an old hockey jersey, and then we played trick or treat, which was pretty fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really neat. I mean, Jimmy, you talk about wanting to collect. You do collect Felix Potvin a little bit, right? So, who do you think was the better goalie? I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you think they're
Cujo for sure? I mean, hands down. Yeah. I mean, look at the numbers. Like, you can take the emotion. You can take the emotion out of it, and pretty much, look at the numbers. But I know Cujo was a good goalie for a very long time. Felix Potvin had, a couple good seasons where he was like elite level. But Cujo was pretty much elite, like year in, year out. With those Oilers and Blues teams, he was always one of like the leaders in the league for the most shots faced. He didn't have the strongest defensive teams, and being a Leafs fan and seeing those great playoff runs, it wasn't his fault they didn't make it to the Cup Finals. They just didn't really have the defensive core. He bailed them out so much. Like, I forgot when he played with Toronto, he averaged probably over 30 shots a game. Yeah. So he saw a lot of rubber.
He never really had a great supporting cast in front of him for the most part. Throughout his entire career.
Yeah.
I mean, St. Louis was okay. Yeah. Detroit was really his best shot. But yeah, Toronto, Edmonton, I mean, he said he was standing on his head a lot.
Oh, absolutely. Like,
majority of his career.
Phenomenal. Like when Toronto, had Cujo and then they had Belfour, like those years where they're like really competitive, we got so spoiled. And then it was just like downhill after that, like getting like Ray Croft and like all these brutal goalies. It's painful to watch sometimes, but yeah, we were spoiled definitely when we had Cujo around for sure.
Does anybody remember what pick Cujo was in the draft? Might have to pull that up. Connie,
he was undrafted.
Never drafted.
He wasn't drafted.
Oh, Connie, you did watch that? Yeah. Whoops. Yeah, that was not. No. I meant in our draft. Apologize. Our draft.
Yeah,
he was picked in our draft, not the draft. Like Connie, we did like a all-time '90s fantasy draft, and I know he was picked. I just can't remember when he was picked. I could pull it up. Did anybody in here pick him? Nick, you didn't pick Cujo?
I don't remember who my team was. Let me check.
Yeah, we had some fun with that because it was interesting to kind of. You're basically comparing, all these players at the same time, which is not easy to do. But I made everybody pick 3 goalies instead of 2, just because A, I love goalies, and B, Jocelyn Thibault had a chance to be picked, which he wasn't. But whatever. These guys don't know good goaltending apparently.
I didn't take it. I took Kostic early, and I didn't look back.
Oh, so you definitely didn't take Cujo. I know that.
I took Kostic, Vernon, and Kolzig.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
I don't know who got Cujo. Somebody got him.
I feel bad because I took Cujo and I forgot about it. I took Cujo. Yeah, he was my first goalie pick. I was like, he's gonna win a cup on my team.
Well, and you picked a lot of underrated players, and not that Cujo's underrated, but he was not drafted. So I feel like that kind of fit the mold of your team. The
Emilio Estevez is okay.
Yeah, that's what his team was. Yeah. Connie, is there anybody that plays now that you enjoy watching? Not that you could necessarily go collect them, but are there any goaltenders in the league now that maybe remind you of the way Cujo played, or that you just enjoy watching play?
So Jonathan Quick, I did actually have a pretty decent sized collection of his, but I ended up selling it off. I kept just a couple cards, but I've always liked Johnny Quick. I'm also a Kings fan. I mean, he's also Johnny Quick is also from the same town that I played university in, from Hamden, Connecticut, and he was also playing for UMass when I was playing for Quinnipiac. But obviously, he was playing men's team. I was playing on the female team or the women's team. But I think he's had some injury issues in the last few seasons, but I think he's an explosive, athletic goalie, and I really like that about him. I also have to respect Carey Price. I mean, he doesn't have the greatest team in front of him, but I mean, he stands on his head most nights, and I respect him as well. I don't obviously collect him, but really like Carey Price. So,
He spent a lot of money to do that. I mean, those Canadian fans are pretty serious about Carey Price and his cards.
Yeah.
Those are some good choices. I feel like, Johnny Quick is definitely still really talented. He's got Cal Peterson there, who is a good young goaltender. I'm just trying to think if there's any like undrafted guys that are in the league right now that are kind of making their way up. Anybody think of a goalie that stands out, like a low pick, somebody that's kind of unprecedented that played, that's playing now? Nobody really comes to mind. Go ahead, Jimmy.
Bennington came pretty much out of nowhere, but that was a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, it was cool. Like, I think it was like a year before he came out of nowhere. He posted on his Instagram just saying, I forgot the exact quote, but basically it was about like enjoying the ride, because you don't know if you're going to get to the end goal ultimately, so you might as well enjoy the ride. So right. I thought that was pretty cool. So then I started following him, and it was pretty neat to see him have all that success and now get that big deal with St. Louis.
Right. Connie, did you see his Cujo tribute setup that he did that one game? I thought that was beautiful. I wanted a card of that so bad, but they never put that, for some reason, they never put his picture in that setup on a card, but it looked awesome.
Yeah, that was the clown jersey. Yeah, his whole setup there was pretty awesome, and the mask was really cool too. I mean, the Cujo tribute, and I'm not sure if Binnington actually looked up. I mean, he's the right age that Cujo could have been someone he looked up to too, based on his age. I'm not sure if that's the case with him though, or if he just did that because of Cujo and the Blues, or if he actually looks up to Cujo too. I think they're like Yaroslav Halak looked up to Cujo. I know that. I think quite a few goalies in the NHL that are that 30 age group. They would have Cujo might have been a hero of theirs at the time. So
yeah. Right, that's awesome. Yeah, I was just trying to think. I especially with Bennington, I was just listening to. Does anybody in here listen to In Goal Magazine podcast? It's a really neat one, and it's about goalies in their gear, and they interview every week. They have a goalie on, and Garrett Sparks was on there, and he was talking about Bennington and how Bennington. If anybody's ever watched an interview with Bennington, like he is as like real as it's gonna get. He's got a massive chip on his shoulder, but that's just who he is, and he fake punches people on the way off the ice.
Oh, I love that when he got pulled. That was awesome.
And I love that mentality of just being yourself as a goaltender. I mean, goaltenders are weird enough as it is, right? Isn't that what they say? So I think that's really neat. He's definitely somebody. I wonder if Curtis was kind of like that too, being undrafted. He got nothing to lose. You just kind of come into the league and give it your best, and not trying to worry about impressing anybody. Just playing your game. But yeah, good choice on Bennington. He's expensive still too, isn't he? That's somebody I thought about collecting too. His Young Guns was not cheap, that's for sure. But cool. What other questions do you guys have? Anything rolling around in your heads? I've kind of made my way through the list that I came up with for Connie. So
mine wasn't. Oh, go for it, Jimmy.
No, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say, Connie, like looking through your account, like not only are they good cards and stuff, but I really like just the little personal touches you throw on it, like the shoveling snow in goalie gear, like DDR in goalie gear, like, or just like your golfing. I'm like, you're having fun with it, and that's awesome. And my second one, this is kind of Jimmy triggered my memory. The first NHL game I ever saw was Toronto in Edmonton, and it was Potvin playing against Cujo.
Oh, nice.
And then I something triggered in my memory, and I was like, okay, the first ever Potvin game he played for LA was in Edmonton. I was at that game. Edmonton won 5-0. This first ever game Cujo played with the Flames was in Edmonton, and I was at that game, and the Oilers won 5-0. So apparently, when I show up, when guys play against the Oilers, they just get lit up. So.
Yeah, I think I was going to ask. You might have touched on it a little bit, but I noticed like when you were a kid, because you posted a bunch of pictures, that you got a lot of photos with NHL players. So was that pretty much your family friendship with Mark Hunter, that you had that connection to like NHL players as a kid, or what was it?
It was Dave Hunter. But
Sorry, Dave Hunter. Yeah.
Well, I guess I did have Lanny McDonald as a coach for about 6 years. And some of that, I guess, just having Lanny around. Like one really cool thing we got to do was in midget. Our high school, the rink was attached to the high school. It wasn't a high school team, but it might as well have been. Small community outside of Calgary. And we were raising money. One of the girls, one of our classmates, she had diabetes, and we were raising money for the Juvenile Diabetes Association. So we had a hockey game, and Lanny got the Flames alumni to come play us. So we were 16-year-old kids, and we were playing against Joel Otto was there. Obviously, Lanny was there. Warren Storodensky was the other goalie. Like you had big names, and I think probably took a lot of that for granted as a kid, thinking like this is just, I guess it's just a normal, but really it's not. And it was really awesome experience. And looking back on it, I'm like, oh, I was really lucky. So especially having Lanny as a coach, had a lot of other great coaches as well. Like because it was just, our community hockey, and Lanny was there. We had other coaches too, but of course, anytime Lanny's in a rink, there's lots of people coming up to him and all that. And he is always a great guy about that too. Like he never hesitate to sign an autograph. Or there was one game and a kid was like on a breakaway, and he just stopped and he pointed, he goes, "There's Lanny McDonald." And like the puck goes the other way. It's like, okay, well, I guess if you've got a NHL Hall of Famer behind the bench, these things are going to happen. But yeah, I mean, looking back, it's amazing that I got to do that. And I was actually going to show you guys this one card. It's a card. There's very few cards with Cujo and Lanny, but there's this one, and I love this card just because it has the two of them on it, both in a Leafs uniform, which is nice. No Flames, but yeah, it's pretty awesome to have Lanny around. And I've been fortunate with other things to just kind of meet different players and just being in the hockey world and being obsessed with hockey, and it kind of just happens. So
Nice.
That's awesome. Love those kind of stories. I was looking through your account, and I did find a picture of, a decent card, as Dave would say, in front of your stick rack. So I wanted to show everybody that real quick. I just think, again, with the hockey collectors, we all have such unique, pictures that we could take of the cards as compared to most. But yeah, that just looks awesome. And are these all Cujo sticks behind there as well?
Yeah, there's the odd non-Cujo, but I'd say 95% of those are Cujos. So.
Awesome.
When's that post from, Matt?
May 20th of last year.
Okay, so we've only been really chatting for probably a year, maybe a little bit before then, because I remember this card being specifically where I really started like making sure to take a look at your photos and like keep on checking in on your account, because I saw this, I'm like, wow, that's just fantastic. It's a beautiful card.
Is this one of your all-time favorite designs on a card? We've talked about these before. I mean, these the way they interact in the sun and everything. I mean, this might be one of the best designs of the 90s that any player collector could want.
Yeah, those are deadly cards and so hard to find. I mean, even back then they were hard to find, let alone now. But they're gorgeous cards.
Yeah, they're incredible. I had like 3 or 4 minutes that I just sat with the sun on the T-bow. I was like, oh my gosh, this is worth every penny. That's pretty sweet. Let's see here. This is interesting. We did talk about this a little bit. Like is there a Mount Rushmore? Could you pick just 4 cards? I mean, that one would have to be one of them, right? I would think.
Yeah, and then I mean, like I showed you this card already. I think that would belong there, just because it's the. I mean, they've done Shield autos since, but this is the first one that he ever had. So I think that one would be there for me anyway. And then I did bring some. I really liked. I know this is not a '90s card, but these types of cards I just think are so cool. So they actually took the name stamp off the stick.
Wow.
And that's a Dominion card. That's like one of the first Cujo they ever did. And I don't know, something cool about that. And then of course, this would have been I think this is the right one. Yeah, this is the original, his first Shield card from the original Cup. But it's with Shane Doan there, the dual Shield.
Nice.
So I think those ones are kind of up there for me too, just because it was the first, and 05-06 Cup is iconic to a lot of people. And I mean, it's iconic for other reasons because it's got the Crosby and the Ovechkin. But for me, I like that card out of it. So. Yeah.
For me, seeing that, Vinny, if you have a question, feel free to just jump right in, man, because I saw that you unmuted. But I look at Nick and I see his display, right? He's got a really unique display with all the stuff around him, and some of us are all different. Do you have your Cujos just in boxes, or do you actually have them up on display back at your house, or how do don't do that?
I have a set of drawers. They were actually built for cards, so most of my cards are kept in those drawers. I have my binders and stuff out in a little area where I kind of put out some of the bobbleheads and masks and stuff. But the cards, like I used to display them before I had my own house, and I just worry, that sun's gonna bleach them. So I just worry when you're displaying a card that it's not in direct sunlight, or over time it will fade the card. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I do, now that I'm getting more into cards again, it's like, okay, how could I maybe put this in a nice display or something? But right. Yeah.
Gotcha. I kind of struggle. I don't know about Miles, Vinny, Jimmy. Nick doesn't have to worry about that because he's in a attic up there with no sunlight coming in. But as nice as it is to have them in boxes and look at your pictures on Instagram, there's something about being able to have them out and to look at them, or have somebody come over and be like, okay, I really don't know anything about hard cards or anything like that, but tell me about that one, or tell me about that one. I mean, I just think that's super, super cool to do. And so I have to find a way to do that in some capacity. I have a shelf in my bedroom, and there's just a few there, and I like to mix it up. But I mean, right, Nick, isn't that awesome being able to come in and just like see everything, or change it up?
I come in here every day and just kind of check it out. I'll just sit here, and that's my Iserman stuff, some of my better Iserman stuff. I mean, I kind of got my Summit APs there. And then I'm in the middle of fixing all this. This is my reorganizing. But and luckily, like you said, it's in the closet, so it's we don't have to worry about the dreaded sun for the most part.
Right.
But yeah, so
that's awesome.
It's all spread out. But yeah, no, like you said, it sometimes it's nice just to come in and look at them, and because I don't want to spend a bunch and just keep them in boxes. I just got lucky with my setup, though. I got a real lucky setup because, like you said, that sun. That dreaded sun, you don't want to keep them out. You have to worry about that, because you don't notice it over time. You really don't day to day. You have no idea. And then you're like, oh, great. What have I done to this card? When you make it look at it next to another one. But
I was going to suggest, Matt, there, you should open up the world's first Tebow museum in Sitka. Rent a room there and display all your cards and sell admission.
I'd have to team up with Jocelyn Tebow Collector on Instagram. He's got all of his game use stuff. I just have cards, dude. But that would be cool. That would be cool. I always thought that it would be neat to have some kind of giant, convention where collectors can just talk to each other about the cards that they have, not necessarily sell stuff, like the National or the Expo, but all these people on Instagram just be in the same place and walk around. You can talk to each other and see the cards, and that's what it's all about. Vinny, do you have cards out for display? Because you got the jersey and the helmet stuff. Do you keep them all boxed up yourself?
The wife helped me put in a rack system. So all my stuff is, I have wax over here, and then all my Lemieux stuff is in front of me in boxes and then I have a little shelving system here with all my binders with Lemieux. Okay. So they're easy access because I like a lot of my commons and stuff are I have commons and top loaders. I just have it everywhere, but my Lemieux stuff, I have them in binders by teams, not teams, but by brand. So I'll just pop open a Topps one and just start looking at it. And it's every week. I don't go a week without sitting there and just opening a binder and going through it and enjoying what I have. Because it reminds me of when I was younger and how I wanted everything. And I said, I'll never have it all. And then flash forward to my 9-year-old telling me you should collect cards. And I said, probably not a good idea. But here I am.
It's funny. What about you, Jim? Are you gonna get the kid into collecting soon? Is that happening yet? Is she getting into it?
She likes cards. She sits at my desk sometimes and says, "Daddy, I'm gonna be you." And then she has a pretend phone saying, "Yeah, and she talks on the phone, and then she has cards in her hand and she does stuff. It's funny. I'm not gonna push it on her too much. I mean, she likes cracking like the old wax packs open. But it's more for just ripping the pack open. But yeah,
that's where it all starts, dude.
Yeah, I'm not going to push it on her. If it's something that she wants to do, then that's entirely up to her. Same with, sports or anything. I just want her to be part of something.
You got to take on the family business.
Yeah, exactly. It could be dance. It could be whatever. Like I fully support it. Whatever makes her happy, and we already have, I feel like, a lot in common and things that we enjoy doing together with. Without cards or sports. So,
gotcha.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Connie, to kind of wrap it up a little bit, I mean, I know we could sit here and talk goaltending and cards for hours, I'm sure, but you talked a little bit about. We'll bring this up later. Like, what does the future of collecting for you look like? I mean, you're a completionist. You have almost every Cujo card. You like picking up some, vintage goalies and stuff. Where are you headed now?
Okay, so like I mentioned earlier, just enjoying what I have. Kind of when I was collecting, really hardcore from, I don't know, say 90, 98, 97 to 2011, call it, kind of when Cujo, a couple years after Cujo retired. A lot of it was just, grab everything you could, and you didn't really get to enjoy it as much. So it's kind of going back through some of the old boxes and just enjoying the cards again. Also, kind of interested in getting younger collectors into this hobby and spreading that a bit. And even if it's base cards or whatever, just getting the kids into it, because I think it's an awesome hobby for anyone. It kept me out of a lot of trouble, I think, as a kid, and I think it's a good thing for kids to do if they like it. And for me, I will keep pursuing my whales, I guess, as you call them, the cards that I just haven't found. I've got lots of time for them to pop up, so I'll just be patient and also keep continuing more on my game used collection. Where things come up, a lot doesn't come up anymore, and I don't want to pay stupid prices. So if it's too much, I won't do it. And just, again, enjoy what I've got, because I have amassed a lot of stuff, and I might even have to downsize a little. And I know I've sold a couple cards to Jimmy, just, not trying to get rich on it or make a fortune, just trying to maybe, shed a bit of, downsize a bit, because really you can almost have too much, I think, and then you don't get to enjoy everything that you like. So
right.
Yeah, it was sweet because I know Connie was trying to downsize and sell her some of the Cujo stuff that she had post playing career. So there was some dual stuff with Potvin on it, and this is like stuff that I couldn't afford or get in 2013, like when the prices were insane.
Right.
So it was nice to pick those up and have those in the PC, because there's some really rare in the game cards that I was able to score from you. So thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I haven't been collecting as long, so I don't know if I'm getting to the point where I could say there's too many, because like I could just collect goalies. That's it. Anybody, but I have a tough time doing that. I find myself having to be focused. So, thankfully there's plenty of Marc-Andre Fleury out there floating around, and but that's good. Yeah, I think especially with some of your game use stuff, I think that's got to be really cool. You got to get it out. That's got to be on display somehow, right? At some point, that would be great to have, a room where you could just walk in and everything's up. Show everybody.
I actually have that room. I just haven't showed it yet. So I've got pads and jerseys all over the walls and sticks.
It's time to post it on Instagram, Connie. We want to see it.
Okay. Maybe I'll do a video, a walk around, and just kind of show it. But yeah, I have. It's my some people laugh when I say this, but it's my lady cave. It's not my man cave. It's my lady.
Everybody needs a cave of some kind, right? With their collectors.
Yeah, you gotta do like MTV Crib style like video. Instagram TV, funny. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, Connie, you mentioned getting like younger collectors into it too, and like not only that, but like you're a female collector, and like we need more female collectors in the hobby. Like Absolutely. It's like you said, it's a hobby for everyone. Like I have my cousin's younger kids. I sent them a bunch of Oilers extras that I had, and I originally was doing it for the son. It was his birthday. And I said, well, why don't I send some for the daughter as well? Like, mm-hmm. It's a hobby for everybody. So I think that's an awesome goal for sure.
Yeah, awesome.
Well, and Vinny C, she's getting into collecting slowly, right? I mean, yeah. I think that's huge. I mean, how did that kind of come naturally? Because as Connie said that, as a teacher, I kind of sit there and I'm like, well, do I expose the kids to, sport cards? Because they're like, well, Pokemon is awesome. I'm like, well, Pokemon's cool, but there's like hockey cards, which look even better, So, I mean, she must
tread lightly, Matt. Tread lightly here now. It's Pokemon careful. Topic.
I know. I gotta be. Well, they don't care about graded cards. Okay, so let's not even go there. Like, kids could care less. I've seen Charizards with damaged corners. I'm like, just don't even look. Just move past it. But Vinny, sees into it, right? Like she helps you pick out cards. I mean, yep. That was one of the coolest things to hear about.
She plays sports, so she was originally going to be a hockey player, and she started skating, and then the skating stuff stopped, and it just happened to the next week have a thing for soccer, and so she became a soccer goalie instead of a hockey goalie, and it's just her natural love of sports, I think, and she's getting inquisitive now that she's 9. She's getting into how football works, how hockey works. What's this red line? Why does he do this? Why does he do that? Mm-hmm. We watch soccer, we watch football, baseball. She plays softball too, so she likes opening the wax. I think that's her favorite thing to do.
Oh yeah, and they love it.
It's an addicting thing.
And but she likes Pokemon. She likes Yu-Gi-Oh. Whatever she wants to do, I'm down with. I have a plethora of stuff here available to her anytime, but she's been so busy with school and soccer right now. So she's at a game right now because it's at the short court. I can't go, but this morning we were at a game. Yesterday she actually played up a year. So it was pretty cool. So I'm hoping this summer that she and I can get more into it when her schedule allows, but she'll be playing softball too. So trying to put her back in front of the box and say, here, rip this whole thing.
I can just hear her say, Dad, tell me a bedtime story. Well, dear, let me tell you about a guy named Mario. And not Super Mario from Nintendo, the guy from the Penguins.
Well,
so that was funny.
She's well aware.
Yeah, I'm sure she is.
I'm sure.
That's cool. You're telling her about sports because I spent a night trying to explain to my daughter, in Christmas Story when the kid sticks his tongue to the pole. I showed her that clip, and then I was explaining she asked me so many questions about it. Why did he do that? Did he get in trouble? You're so funny. I spent an entire evening explaining that scene to her. It's funny.
Well, you guys were talking about stories, and I thought it was important for C, who's playing a goalie, Connie, to read. Magnan Rayon put a book out, and she was able to read about her. I almost forgot to ask this question. I mean, was that something that really fascinated you when that happened? I mean, did you ever spend any time learning about her or anything?
When I met her when I would have been about 6 or 7 years old, kind of right around when she played for Tampa, and it was it was a Team Canada thing that they had, and it was in Calgary, and we got to meet her. I mean, yeah, like obviously what she did is amazing. To have, regardless of how it or why it happened, because a lot, she even talks about it, how it was kind of a publicity thing, like for the Tampa Bay Lightning being a new team. But regardless of that, she still played pro hockey with men, and that's she deserves mad props for that. And as someone, she was a trailblazer for someone like myself, because I played for the most part guys hockey growing up. And when you see another female doing that, it's like, okay, that's motivation for me to think that I can too. And then, it breeds a whole other generation of females like myself to then, basically to be a trailblazer for the ones behind us. There's so much now with the women's game that's even better than when I was playing. It's come a long way, and I think it'll still keep coming a long way. I think that's great to see.
Awesome.
You see a lot more female goalies. You see a lot more, you've got the women's professional league that's starting or trying to get going. I actually played in the very infant stages of that, and where it is now, it's great. Of course, there's still room to go, but it's awesome. So,
excellent.
Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah, I had to make sure to bring that up. Awesome book too. That's something that I really want to put in my classroom once I'm teaching back in class again, is giving, female athletes, just athletes in general, some sort of inspiration. I think athletes have inspired us, each one of us in some way. So that's great. Awesome that you got to meet her too. I remember that was a big deal when that happened. Her cards were all over the card shops, and I have one that my dad bought me when I was, much younger, that I love dearly. So awesome. Well, anybody have any final wrap-up questions for Connie before we go? I think this has certainly been a lot of fun for me, and hopefully all the viewers as well. Miles? Vinny?
No.
Jimmy?
No,
All right.
I'm just going to do my traditional go from the start of her page and go through everything.
Yeah.
That's usually what I do when I finally get to sit down for 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go from the beginning to the end and just go through every picture they have. So
Nice.
I really like doing that. And that's probably why I only follow a handful of people, or if they follow me, I like to go and look through everybody's collection. I think it's pretty cool to go through and just see, kind of get to know them a little bit more through their collection, which is pretty cool.
Well, and see how they shovel snow too. I never thought I'd see something like that. That was one of the best videos probably of the year. I am curious, Connie, before we go, Instagram, that's for me, it's been an amazing platform to be on. I think for hockey collectors too. I think we have it figured out a little bit better than most. The basketball guys tend to just try to make noise with the big cards, which is cool. But I think the hockey collectors have it down pat by posting a variety. I mean, what have you liked so much about it, since you've been on Instagram posting stuff?
Just from a personal perspective, just that I'm, going through stuff again and getting to be like, oh, I forgot that I had that, or, oh, I really like that card, and I now have somewhere to share it. Because in the past, I used to be really active on the boards, like Hobby Insider, Beckett even, going back to those days. And those started to kind of go away with a lot of the Facebook groups, but then I found those are kind of just not as personal. I like the Instagram personal connection, because it's like I'm actually talking to real people that also have similar interests as me again. And it's not about, selling an expensive card. It's not about that. It's just like, we enjoy this stuff. And I think with the pandemic, it really kind of pushed me to spend more time on Instagram and connect with people because, you know, humans need that. So, I mean, I think that's the one thing growing up too that I loved about cards was like going to card shows and meeting people and that interaction. And I think that Instagram kind of provides that a bit. So yeah, I think it's an awesome platform for that. Yeah.
Excellent. I think we could all agree on that, couldn't we? I mean, I think we've all had similar experiences. I mean, the personal connections and just how personable everybody has been it's kind of it still surprises me, you know, people reaching out saying, hey, do you need this? Or, you know, other than Jimmy's always got my back with Tebow stuff, but yeah, but I mean, just, I don't know about you guys, but I just love it when somebody reaches out and it's just like, hey, you know, I really like, you know, you got a great collection. I really like this. And then you can, you know, in the same way, return the favor and just build up a connection that way. I never thought it would be like this. So I'm really, really happy. I decided last spring when all this crazy stuff happened, oh yeah, you know what? I loved hockey as a kid. I should get back into it. It's been probably the best choice I've made collecting. So yeah, I love it. Cool. Well, awesome. Thanks for sharing all those stories with us, Connie. I know we probably didn't get to everything, but I kind of wanted to start bringing in, you know, some other people because you know, it is tough to get all the guys in here at once, almost impossible. I think we've all been here once, all of us. So it was awesome to have you on here, and it'll be fun to you know, meet different collectors on Instagram. If you ever want to come back and just hang out and talk hockey cards, we'd be happy to have you. So just let us know.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me. This has been fun. I'll admit I was nervous at first. I was like, I don't know what to expect. And yeah, it's been fun. So thanks.
Good. Well, glad you came. And for everybody watching, thanks for hanging out. We'll see you in a couple weeks. And yeah, for anybody going on spring break, enjoy it. We'll see you next time.